Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast. This is the podcast where we have digital discussions, the worlds of pop culture, social media, sports, pro wrestling, everything really. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis, and on Twitter, you know me as PD Beats. My guest is a professional wrestler, and he has been generating a lot of buzz his last couple of years, and an awesome wrestler. We're with Brian Pillman. Brian Pillman Jr. is with us. Brian, welcome to Popternative, man.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
It might be a given, the answer to this question I'm about to ask, but with the background of your father as well. But when did you kind of decide that pro wrestling was something you wanted to do?
Well, it definitely took me a while to find it out. It took me well into my 20s till I really found it. So that's what I kind of knew. As I went to school and kept the good grades and did all that. But once I got into my adult years, I realized that something was missing, and that's when I was about 22. I decided to look into wrestling, and then 24, I started training. So it's been a pretty quick ride, or 23 rather.
And what do you
turned?
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just saying I turned 24 when I was up in Canada with Lance Storm. So.
Oh, absolutely. What kind of drove you to the wrestling? Was it, the crowd reactions? Was it the intensity of getting in the ring? What did you like about it, Brian?
It was definitely my natural personality was always kind of geared towards that, some sort of performance and some sort of being in the spotlight and things like that. So my personality kept pushing me towards something of that nature. And then, of course, my lineage had confirmed that for me and opened up some doors for me as well. So once I got started, it was kind of a natural, organic thing. I really never felt like – I always felt like I belonged,
Oh, absolutely. You mentioned it, your father, Flying Brian Pillman, legend, wrestling legend. And you were probably around a lot of wrestlers and a lot of things growing up as well. How did that kind of, so-called help your career? I'm sure you learn things all the time, and even stuff from when you were younger. Maybe there's things that you remembered possibly that you kind of took to the ring these days.
Oh yeah, it's always just little things you pick up along the way. I think the best way to learn and get better in this business is to wrestle as many matches and as many different styles and people as you can.
Absolutely. What has so far been, because you've been doing a lot of amazing matches, and specifically the last year or so, there's been a lot. You've been busy. You've been wrestling all the time. What have been some matches that have stood out that you're really happy with?
I really just had a good one over there in England. A lot of the wrestlers over there in England are just really, really solid. They're always on their game. They're always moving real well. So it's one of those things. When I first got over there, I had to step my game up. I was getting a little blown up myself and trying to do what I wanted to do, but also keep up with what they wanted to do in the ring and stuff. So once I got that conditioning in, once I really learned their style over there, I started having some great matches towards the end of the tour there. And I wish I never got to leave. I wish I could have stayed there in England and learned some more. So definitely a ton of fun. And that I'm on a whole nother level now. So going into this weekend, I knew I had a light weekend, and then tomorrow I've got Warrior Wrestling, which I'm finding out is going to be a pretty big opportunity for me. I got 2 big matches at Warrior, so just getting prepared. Always working as hard as I can. That's the bottom line, and the fans, they usually believe in me. So
there's 2 kind of parts of pro wrestling. There's the theatrical aspects of it, and then there's the kind of in-ring performing and the physical aspect of it. Do you like them both in a similar amount, or is there one part of it do you like more than the other?
Yeah, I enjoy the performance of everything, and it's just there's so many different styles in wrestling now, especially in 2019. So you'll often find, you're better at certain things compared to other guys, but other guys are better at a certain style or a certain way of doing things. So to me, I like to be, a jack of all trades. I try to make sure I do enough of the high flying and impressive athletic stuff, but I also try to make sure I do a proper amount of storytelling and things of that nature. So I really I try to be as versatile as I can.
And you mentioned kind of storytelling. I mean, um, your gimmick of the Flying Brian Jr. I mean, when did you kind of? I mean, I guess it just was fitting that was going to be your gimmick, right?
Yeah, I never really thought about a gimmick or anything. I was just being myself, and that's what I was always told is, the best wrestler is the best version of you and who you are. So, I never really tried to think about a gimmick. I always thought, what's the most genuine way I can be me in the ring, and then that's what happens. So.
It's an amazing time for pro wrestling because it's the first time as well where you don't necessarily have to be with a huge promotion to make a living with pro wrestling, right?
No, it's great, and that's the prime time for me breaking into the business is absolutely the time of now, and I'm very blessed to be one of those people that can make a living. I have a house, and my girlfriend lives here, and I do have a roommate that helps me split some of the costs, but for the most part, I'm doing really well for myself, and it's all because of the fans and where indie wrestling has gone.
Absolutely. There's also been an announcement we talked about before we recorded, AEW, the over budget battle royal. I mean, you're going to be part of that. That is just amazing news, man.
That's that's kind of the apex of where indie wrestling is going. It's all elite wrestling is the culmination of all the top creative wrestlers / talents that have come together to create something very special, something that can appeal to an even wider audience. But they've done it all on the backs of this proper audience, this very niche kind of group of fans that really respect the art of wrestling, and they're not so much trying to be sucked into stories and dramas as much as they're just respecting each individual match and each individual performance. But all the stories and all the build up has to come with it. You got to have one, can't have one without the other. But as you see, people watching Raw or SmackDown are starting to lean, oh, well, what if we check out this AEW stuff and see that there is a parallel universe that where wrestling can be told in a different way. So
absolutely. And it's one of those things where you're pretty big on social media, really interacting with fans, telling them what's up. I mean, we're in like an age now where you can find out all the news through social media, which is amazing, and it kind of gets the word out about AEW and all these other indie shows that you're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, and everybody helps everybody out. So it's one of the blessings I've had to work with MLW is they're willing to help me get to my indies and get to my shows and connect my flights for me, and they really take care of us over there at MLW. It's really nice.
What advice do you have because it's an interesting situation because you said you're doing really well for yourself and you're like making a living as a pro wrestler, but you are also a young guy and you are like, one could make an argument like an up and comer in this industry, right? But at the same time, there are people that also look up to you as well. They look up to Brian Pillman Jr. because they see all the cool stuff they're doing. Have you ever thought about that? Because that's an interesting kind of dynamic. You're a young guy. You're looking up to wrestlers that you train with or that you watch, but at the same time, people are also looking up to you.
Yeah, I think it's one of the side effects of being thrust into the spotlight so soon and having so many opportunities come my way. And some of them I've knocked out of the park, and some of them I may have fell short on. But at the end of the day, I think people see that. They see somebody fall down and get back up, and they see somebody get better and succeed just through pure ability to keep going, to keep moving forward. And I think that inspires a lot of people. I didn't have an easy childhood growing up, so I think a lot of people can relate to that too. And wrestling is one of those things where you're always constantly learning. You're learning from guys who have done it longer than you. You're learning from guys that have done it not as long. There's some people that know some certain things that other people don't know. It's a truly vast art. So there's a lot of expertise I have that some people might not recognize or hold a high regard for. And there's other things about my character and what I do in the ring that people might be like, oh, that's very impressive. So, different people value different things, and different promotions use different things. I don't think NXT and WWE are using the same guys for the same reasons, the same reason, certain indies are using certain guys for different things. So it's a matter of what you need. And I think I offer a pretty big package of talents, a pretty wide array of, star power, athletic ability, charisma and promo ability. I've done a lot of promos in my day for promotions, especially on TV. The TV work is coming off really excellent,
and it's
and that doubles up the exposure in the UK and Ireland and different countries that have this access to this MLW product.
Oh, absolutely. You mentioned it a little bit just now when you're talking about guys being used certain ways. What do you kind of think about the current state of pro wrestling and the trends you're seeing with gimmicks and what's been doing in the ring? Like, what do you like and what do you don't like about the current state of pro wrestling, Brian?
I feel like a lot of people are doing the same stuff, which is fine because there's a lot of ground to cover. There's a lot of territories in wrestling, and so if you do something in one area, another guy might do it in another area. It's not a big deal because there's so much wrestling that someone would have to watch all of it in order to catch all the stuff. But yeah, like there's a lot of similarities with how people wrestle, and that makes it a little bit easier if someone is very good with their character and like with a real gimmick. It makes it easier for them to stand out. So it's just like with everything, any sport or art, like skateboarding or anything, you're always going to find imitators and people that copy other people. I'd say that's the only problem with the indies today is there's a lot of internet copying and I'm going to steal this spot or I'm going to do this. And to an extent, you have to do that if you want to keep up, or you have to like learn how to take their stuff, or, you just got to try and experiment with other people's stuff just to see if you can make your own thing up. And that's the only problem is there's a lot of repeats and like, but as far as gimmicks, I think people are more creative than ever with like their character work and their gimmicks. I mean, there's a million, black trunks guys with kick pads kicking each other, but at the same time, when there is a character that comes out, it really shines,
Absolutely. What do you kind of think about some of the misconceptions in pro wrestling? That's kind of the hallmark of my show. We talk about kind of the misconceptions of the industry. Everyone thinks they know everything about Brian Pillman Jr. They know about everything you do. They think they have the answers. That's one of the cons about social media. It's a double-edged sword. What are some kind of misconceptions of stuff that people assume about pro wrestling that you're kind of like, no, that's the complete opposite of how it is and how it works?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest misconceptions is probably just that guys in the business that come up with like a name or something, they might have it real easy and stuff and all this, and that's really not the case. The Von Erich boys, they've had a real rough time, coming in, and things have happened to their family. My family, I grew up without my dad and stuff, and guys like Cody Hall, he went to Japan and paid a bunch of dues, and it just sucks when guys with the second generation name and that expectation when they get all their success is attributed to their last name. So it's hard to feel good about what you're doing and your work when everybody is just the elephant in the room. Oh, you only got booked because your dad. It's really not like that at all. There's tons of second generation superstars who don't have it in them to do what we can do, and just the amount of punishment that we're putting our body through is definitely underappreciated, and there's a big misconception with how much damage we're actually doing to our bodies. We're actually doing a lot of damage to our bodies, so people just need to realize that in every sense of the word. We are pro athletes, whether or not you think we're doing these big crazy flips and moves or not. There's so much of it is endurance and making your body last over the years, truly.
No, absolutely. Well, Brian, we'll wrap up, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it. We've been wanting to do it for a while, and it's amazing. I usually say like the floor is yours, but the ring is yours now to just plug away. Where can people follow you on social media? Talk about the upcoming events that they can check out. Like, plug away, man.
Yeah, June 1st and 2nd, we got MLW Fury Road. or July rather, right? And no, it's June, right? Yeah, it's June. Anyways, May, June, yeah. After May is June 1st and 2nd, MLW Fury Road in Milwaukee. It's a big turning point, big championship belt being introduced, the national title. Very big news. And you can catch me on Twitter at Flying Brian Jr. and on Instagram at Flying Brian 41 to stay up to date on all things involving my career and on the independent scene and on MLW. Tomorrow in Chicago, we have Warrior Wrestling 5, where I will be taking on Robert Anthony and his comrade Frank the Clown.
Awesome. That sounds amazing. And of course, Double or Nothing, AEW.
Absolutely. That will be coming up on May 25th. I'm getting in shape for that as we speak. Working out every day, tanning like I can.
It's like one of those. That's like one of the events that that's quote unquote the event, right? Like that's what everyone's talking about right now.
Yeah, it's sort of the WrestleMania of the Indies, right? So yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. I know they've got some nice matches planned, a fun little battle royale deal. So I'm excited.
Absolutely, man. Well, thank you so much, and I wish you all the best, man. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Until next time, this is Brian Pillman Jr. and Petey Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.